Good morning and welcome back. We're working on the monitor. We're getting close to the end of the application. We're aiming to have this completed by Friday. Today is Wednesday, so we've got a little bit of work ahead of us. We need to implement polling, like a ping poll for the SignalR clients as well as the service instance clients. So I did this yesterday where I implemented this base service polling class. And then within this, it has event handler. So let's go ahead and if we look at our models in here, we also have a polling credentials DTO, which is what we're passing in here, which only contains the polling interval. We have a polling event handler, and then additionally the actual ping services themselves. The ping services inherited from this base service polling, which I set up so that I'm only having one timer running in the app, and then that fires these two abstract methods, timer tick events and timer tick events async. So then on the poll, what we're doing is we're injecting our data access layer. I'm pulling on service instances, anybody that is online, and then we're going to fire this event so that we can handle it inside of the individual classes. So let me open up one more thing because I want to make sure I don't screw this up here. But now we're going to implement this poll. So the first place I want to do it is here in the WebSocket. The Web API, and we're going to dump this into my alerts hub. Okay, so we need to have a protected read-only iService ping called ping service. And then we're also going to need to have it here. And then we need to assign it. Something weird is going on here. So we're going to add a reference to TCP, just this BLL project. Now this thing has been real funny. It doesn't want to import this project. We'll try it again. All right. So now that we have this, we're actually only going to assign this once because it's a static, and this thing brings up different instances. So just to make sure of that, let me look at another project where I've implemented this. And so we need to have a couple of things. We also need to have the iHub context of the same hub here called Alerts Hub. And the reason for that is because when the ping fires, we need to call this by the hub context. So we're going to call this a web hub, Alerts Hub. And then this one, if my ping service is equal to null, then we want to assign it. And then have my event. Like that. Okay, we also want to have a hub context here of the alerts hub called alerts hub. Hey, someone say sound. How are you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you with us. And then we'll do a alerts hub here equals alerts hub. Now on our dispose, like that, we need to, and this is a bool for is disposing. I'm great. I'm doing very well today. Thank you. And if I look on my startup, I should have something here called is shutting down. So on this, we want to say, if my startup dot is shutting down, then what we want to do is we also want to say, if my service ping is not equal to null, then we're going to do a ping service dot polling event minus equal on service ping event. And then we'll do a ping service dot dispose. Actually, that doesn't matter. This is a protected. And we're not going to dispose of this polling service because we're going to do that outside of this class. Now, if I look at this service ping, currently I have this set up to inject it. But if I wanted to do this as a transient, I think I can actually save myself some effort here. And we can just do this. And then we can do a new ping service. Which is going to pass in what? Just the data access layer and our polling credentials. And my polling interval for this service will be, for now, 30 seconds. And we're going to make this a protected virtual asynchronous task. Like that. Now on this ping event, it looks like I need to implement some kind of a logger in here. So we're going to do a for each var item in my args.service instances. I want to do a try and a catch on it. And all I'm going to do is await my alerts hub.clients.client of my service instance send asynchronous here. And this will be a ping request. Like that. And we want to do where my string is not null or white space of the connection ID. Now, this isn't quite right. Because if I look on my service ping here, this is only for service instances. And so what this is going to do is it's going to read all of the service instances to ping. And then what we want to do is for each var service instance and service instances, if my service instance has been pinged, then you want to disconnect it. I think I do that with a forced disconnect. Hold on one second. So if it already has been pinged, now we can say set the connection offline, set the service instance offline. And otherwise, you want to send the ping, which is a service instance dot has been pinged equals true. Real quick, when I look at my service instances to ping, it's only getting the active ones. And then what you want to do is var service instances pinged equals a new list of service instance DTO. Which is going to be a service instances pinged equals dot add my service instance. We're going to move my try catch to be in the loop. And now when I look at my await data access layer dot update ping service instances of my service instances pinged dot to array, that's going to update has been pinged and timestamp. So we want to say service instance dot timestamp equals true. And this is going to be active. So on my service instance, we want to add in here a prop bool called active. And then where we're updating this, we also want to have the active is equal to active. Okay, so now that we have pinged all of the connections, or at least set them to be pinged in the database, then we're going to update them like that, and then we're going to fire our ping event. And we're going to call this my service instance is pinged, and that's going to be this one. And we also need to set the timestamp up here. And that should do it. So we're going to set a breakpoint on this, rebuild it, and then over in the Web API, we were adding this on the, we want to get it where the connections. Okay, so on my data access layer, we need to change that just a little bit. So where we're rating the services to ping, we want to get it where the c.connection ID does not equal to null, and c.connection ID does not equal to nothing, and it's active. Okay, let's go ahead and start this up. Over in the Alerts Hub, this is our ping request. Let's try it again. I wonder what's going on here. There we go. That was weird. It just keeps disconnecting. It's very bizarre. It's like this service is shutting down. My TCP service is shutting down, because this is making a hub connection over to the Web API now. But this interesting. Let's try it again. Okay, so it fires. We get our service as null. We create it, and we start our ping event. So let's start one at a time. The identity server is running. Here's our landing page. Here's our Web API. So is it our TCP service that's stopping? We're going to read this by the token, which works. We're going to update our service and connect. Now it says it's shutting down is false and disposing. Is it that? And it looks like that's what it was, because it was disposing and shutting down the whole hub that time. So we'll log in here. And now what we need to do is create a project called Project 1. And in it, we'll create an application called Client App 1. And we'll grab the OAuth token for that. Jump down into our TCP test. Let's restart it now. Log in. So the reason it's not working is because we're never calling the update. So we do want to inject the IServicePing in here. And then on my startup, right here, we're going to do a services.add singleton, and it's going to be an IServicePing service instance. And the one we want to do is a new service ping service instance, like this. And then I want to look up here in ASP.NET Core, configure services we want to get from DI. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So right here, we're going to do a services.build service provider .get service, call it a iService data access layer. And we can just add that here. And then we're going to inject this one as a singleton. So can we do like a context? What about a services dot? So we want to say resolve service configure services without build service provider. Hey there, Nar. How are you doing? It's been a long time. Oh no, I've been streaming pretty regularly. I just haven't seen you. So can I do it like this? Well, we're going to do a add singleton here of something called a service provider. Yes, was busy writing code like you. And now what I can do is I can say a var options equals a service provider dot get service of type I service data access layer. And then I can do a var service ping service instance equals a new service ping service instance, which is going to pass in my new polling credentials, which we said was going to be 30 seconds, and then my options, which I'm going to call my data access layer. And then I want to return my service ping service instance. Okay, so that should register our service ping, but it's not done yet. We still need to have a collection here of, I'm going to use a I concurrent dictionary. Of a GUID because when I look at this service instance, it's a base service polling with the base, yeah, it's got an I GUID on it. And then a iBase service polling. And we're going to call this polling services. And we're actually just going to call this iBase service. So this one, we want to do a service dot add my service ping service instance here. And this is going to be an instance.id. And the reason we're doing that is that we also need to have on here one timer. And if I go into my variables, we're going to say public const int global timer interval, and we'll do that at 250 milliseconds. So it'll fire 4 times a second. And then after all this, we want to do my start the polling timer. And this is going to need a timer callback function with no state. The due date will be globals dot the time interval, and same thing again here. On shutdown, this is where I want to say if my timer does not equal to null, then we're going to do a timer dot dispose and then a timer equals null. And then we also want to do a for each var service and services of type I polling service. We want to do a service dot dispose. And then here we want to have a private void called timer callback with just a state variable. Yeah, I'm still in California. And then we're going to do for each one of my service in services.ofType iPolling service. Then we want to do service.update my globals.global timer interval. That should do it. Give it a second for everything to start. It says that this needs to be a new concurrent dictionary, da-da-da-boom. Didn't that start over in the WebAPI services? Here's the ping. I know it was every 30 seconds as it was supposed to ping. So we can check it here. So we never added it. Right here. Actually, that's going to kill the performance of my computer. We'll leave it on pause. Let this start. So it never created it. But it did create the timer. Yeah, so it's never resolving it. There it is. Okay, now it's added to the services. So now there's one in here, which is of type, oh, you idiot. This is a services.values.ofType. And there it is. Now it's working. After 30 seconds, it should send a ping now. which will be here. Okay, here we go. We're going to read my service instances to ping. Didn't get any. So if I look at my SQL, and I look at my service instances, there should be all of these. So my query is where my connection ID does not equal to null, and the connection ID does not equal to nothing, and the active is true. So let's copy this query into here. Okay, so it didn't like that. So is this a null? There we go. And so now we can just fix our code just here. And now we should have our 9 instances. We're going to ping them. And then down here where we update them, that says it worked. Now they all say that they're active and they have been pinged. And now what we're going to do is look at my service instances, and then in my alerts hub, we're going to send it to that client ID. Okay, next step is on the client here. We want to say if my args.message event type equals received, like that. Now I want to first digest the Pong. So if the args.message equals Pong, and my comparison type is ignore case, you want to do a await hub connection dot invoke asynchronous called ping response. Like that. Otherwise, You want to do it for all of these. And so then over here on your alerts hub, if you have a public virtual asynchronous task of a ping response, so now if your pong dot is equal to pong, and we'll ignore the case, then you want to, the client is alive, respond, we want to update the database for the client. And then what we want to do is we want to say await data access layer dot read service instance of my read service instance by connection ID of my context connection ID. And now what I want to do is my await data access layer dot update service instance asynchronous, and we want to do a new request where my connection ID is my and we're going to change this to be a update service instance pinged. And all we're going to do is pass in the ID. And your ID is your DTO.ID. Now, if when you do your ping request, you don't need to issue a forced disconnect because they should already be forced disconnected. So let's go ahead and try it again here. We need to have the update service instance pinged, which is just the long ID. And all you want to do is you want to update your has been pinged to be false. I don't care about connection ID. The timestamp, I want to change that. So this one we can do as a date time dot UTC now. and your has been pinged equals true. And we'll check that. And it takes 30 seconds for it to kick through. If I look here, we should see that only one of them hasn't been pinged and everything is active. Okay, here it is. We're going to read my service instances, which I got 9. Now we're going to set them all inactive, which worked. And if I check, has been pinged as true. But it never did the active flag. So back here, and it's because here we want to say that let's look at this again. Oh, because that's only doing the service instances pinged, and we don't want to do that. We want to do all service instances. Now it'll work. Okay, give it 30 seconds here. You can see that our service instance is alive. Okay, here's our update. It worked. And there it is. So now, when it fires, we should send this across to our ping request. Just a second. Where is this going? It's right here. You put this in the wrong area because this ping event is for the server. So this should be the server dot send to client application. Which is your C dot client application ID. And you just want to send a, this is raw, and it's just going to say Pong. No, now what you would want to do is write in the database that the client has responded to the ping. So what we need to do is up here, where I do my hub connection dot, what is it, on, and my method name is request Pong. Something like that. Let me look at this. This is going to send this back here. This is called a ping request. And it's going to have a string called ping here. And I'm going to look at the docs for this. So we're going to look at SignalR Core C# client. Do I have to use dispatcher? It looks like it. So this is going to be on a type of string. And then it's going to be this.dispatcher. I don't see where dispatcher is coming from. So I think I can just do a hub connection.invoke. And we should be able to do this like as an on async or something. And I just want to send the Pong. Like that. Let's try it again. Wait 30 seconds. Hey there, Het Smidech. How are you doing today? Welcome to the channel. So it has been pinged. Would help if I spelled it right. What exactly am I doing? I put these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com, so if you wanted to catch up on the project, by all means, you're free to. Before I explain it, are you a programmer yourself, or are you new to programming? And that way I can make sure to explain it in the appropriate language. Wait for it to kick through. Looks like it's working great. I am a programmer. Okay, so I have a application here that I'm making. It's called Request Alert. This is a ping response, which needs to fire that here. Okay, so what this is this is a monitoring application. Let's say I have something like 40 or 50 different websites which are up and running. A lot of them are running through C#, ASP.NET, but they could be at any platform. And I want some kind of universal monitoring tool that outputs to a web client. So what I've created here is an application called the Monitaur. It's a Angular CLI app for the front end. I'm using AG-Grid to show like what the messages and alerts are that are coming, and then it'll have filtering, and you can be like, oh, I've acknowledged these messages. The way that the messages get into it is that you can use WebAPI, and your token is just an OAuth token that you get when you register your client app on the web app. So you just do a bearer with that. You can send it over WebAPI. You can do the same thing with TCP, and you can do the same thing with WebSocket. I've also created these nice handy dandy wrappers. There we go. Now when I look at this, has been pinged as false, but the connection ID got rid of the connection ID, so we got to fix that. And so, so it's got 3 universal ways that you can get your messages in, and then I've created NuGet packages that you can just import into .NET apps. So we should be done with it and have a basic application up and running by Friday, and then I can show how we can get it working with one of our apps. I don't have a revenue model in it yet, but I'm sure I'll add something. So this is working now. The big difference was this service instance. We want this one. We'll run that. By the way, Kindred Dev is hosting you, so I came from him. That's awesome. I haven't seen him in a long time. Thank you, Kindred Dev. Appreciate that. So this should resolve my SignalR service issue, but we still have to do this for the TCP clients. That should be pretty straightforward. So here's our client application. What we can do is we can send it, so we'll take this OAuth token here, and then we'll jump down to my test app. And this one is using TCP, so we can set the token. There's the response. Here is our update of the pinged connections. Just a second here. How did I have that before? All right, so we'll just do it this way. That should do it. So the next thing is that we need to add that onto TCP. One other thing is that I probably want to add rate limiting. Rate limiting on the Web API, rate limiting on the TCP, rate limiting on the WebSocket, not for coming in, but for going out. Checking to make sure that if you're sending too many messages over rate limiting, that you get blocked. Okay, let's grab my OAuth token, jump in here to this client. We can set it, paste it. Now we can send an alert. I'm going to say that this will be an error, not working. And there you can see that it's populated, as well as down here on my AG grid. There, that time it worked. We'll just double check it one more time. So let's implement this now in our TCP layer. Perfect. And if we check it, it looks right. Everything's updated. Now, with my service instances, we're going to make one change here, which is on my migrations. I want to add on here onto service instance a new field called date time timestamp created. And we'll set that to datetime.utc now. And then in my Fluent migrations, down here, we want to add in, under service instance, a timestamp created, which is not nullable. And then on our data access layer, when we create a service instance, This is going to make the new date, and we also want to have in here timestamp created. Okay, let's run our migrations so that our database gets recreated. And now we can run our tests to make sure everything is fine. Okay, now let's set up our Pong on our TCP server. So currently, our TCP server is right here. And it has a services out here that we can inject. So similarly to what we did in the Web API, I'm going to add this service provider instance. And this is a slightly different one because I need to make another ping here called service ping client application. And when I look at this, we can change this to be an IServicePing, so it's a universal. And then my service ping client application. Except this is different because now this is read client applications ping to ping. We want to have unit tests for all 4 ping methods in the data access layer. And then this is going to be my client applications. And a client application DTO called client applications. And this is going to be a client application DTO. So this one is now read ping client applications. And so this is going to be a client applications pinged and a client application DTO. So when you are in your TCP server, and you get a client connection, you're storing them as a user connection DTO. Which means the very first thing I want to have is a new private timer, call it my timer. And then I also want to have my this is a TCP worker, but I thought I made it so I could inject that. And then we're going to have up here a private read-only IServicePing called ServicePing. Hey there, Het Schmidt. How are you doing? Thank you so much there for that follow. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them into the chat. Also, make sure you check us out at YouTube, youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com, and I put all these videos up at and then we have a Discord also at discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. So this is going to be a service ping equals service ping. And you're also going to have an IMapper called mapper. Okay, let me go back here. This is going to be for a client application. Like that. This is a service ping client application. Like that. So here you can do a if my ping service ping does not equal to null, then we can do a dispose. And I want to have a method here, which is my service ping dot polling event on service ping polling event. Additionally, I want to have a timer with a timer callback, which is a globals.global timer interval. And then this is going to be the monitor SignalR ping seconds. So this is going to be a private virtual void timer callback as a object passing the state. And then down here, if my timer does not equal to null, then you want to do timer.dispose. So now here, this is an await data access layer. So we can inject that up here as the iService data access layer. And down here you can say, if your data access layer does not equal to null, then you want to dispose it. And this one is an update ping client applications. No, this is going to be a this one right here is a update client application pinged. And that's of my args.client of my c.client application. So that's for the response. So when we get my polling event, I want to go through each of my items in my server.connectionmanagers.get all connections authorized. And what you want to do is a service ping dot you just want to do a server dot send to client application bra of a ping, and then your auth connection dot client application ID. Second, because the first time you go through this, I want to update the connections. This connection is currently not stored in the database, is it? I don't think it's stored in the database currently. It's just ephemeral data. Yeah. Now when I do this, this gets all of the connections, so I don't need to worry about that. But what I do want to do is for each var item in auth connection.connections, if my connections has been pinged, then you want to discard this connection. It is stale. And then you're going to send the ping to everybody else. So here you want to do a auth. You want to do a server.connection.manager.remove connection authorized of my connection. Otherwise, you just want to say your connection.hasBeenPinged equals true, and then you're going to ping it. And then here you want to return your task.completed task. So when it fires now, you're going to send this ping to everybody. So this is going to happen now on your service ping.update. And that's going to be your globals.global timer interval. And that's it. And so now on my client, when you get your ping, you're going to send a pong. So they're different. Because there's no database layer for this one. Because this is going to be for all of your client applications, right? Hold on. Because where this is being subscribed in your worker service, you're just going to do a server dot connection manager dot get connection of your C dot socket and if your connection dot does not equal to null, then you just want to set your has been pinged to false. Set that the client has responded to the ping. Which means that up here, you're just removing it and then pinging it. Which means that this didn't matter in our case. Right. So then in my business logic layer, you have this service ping event args. We're going to make a new one called a service ping service instance event args, which is I'm going to add a new folder in here called args. Which makes this a service instance. Well, it was your polling event. Hold on. This when we look at our ping here, we can say T T, where T is a type of service ping event args. Just a second. So this is just a base service ping service instance. Which makes this a polling event. So let me see, I want to do a generic on my interface C#. Generic event in an interface C#. So it wants me to do it up here as a T. And then I say where my T is a service ping event args. Like that. And the other one here is a service ping service instance events args. Like that. And this one needs to be a service ping service instance event args. And the other one just needs to be a service ping event args. like that. And this one here is a service ping service instance event args. Okay. I think we're good to go to test it. Is that Visual Studio Code? No, I'm using Visual Studio. It's 2019 Enterprise. I'm guessing the program is using a Visual Studio without the code. Yeah, I use Visual Studio Code when I'm working in Angular, which is this one over here. Okay, let's get our token. Let's go ahead and connect. And we're going to get all of our auth connections. It has been pinged as true. And then we're going to send it. So when we do this, we want to say private bool is ping running. We want to say if my is ping running is false, is ping running equals false. And here you want to say is ping running equals true. We want to do the same thing here. Private bool is ping running equals false. Like that. When we do this, we're going to try it for everything. And And then we'll do another try catch here. Like that. Check to see how many of these auth connections come through. Let's get our token. So it's like it never connected. But my polling interval is off. The due time here is the timer interval. This needs to be times 1,000. And there we can see our warning. Okay, so now we're going to get our auth connections. We're going to send this to my one connection. That should have been a Pong. Which should have been picked up over here in the library. Try it again here. That's good. I got the connection. Wait for it to send it. So it never got picked up by the client here. So if I were to then import a new resource, TCP/NET client, because it should be digesting it in here. We also need to add the SSL client. So let's go ahead and add now this reference to client and client. And then we'll run it again. Okay, my content is fine. This next time, we need to wait for our ping. Here it is. We digest it. That should have been fine. Okay, and then back over here on the server, let it try it again. Ping. Interesting. Let's go ahead and reconnect it. Okay, let's go ahead and connect again. Perfect. Looks good. Looks good. We no longer need this. Okay, this time we're going to send this right back to the server. But I'm not receiving it back here. Is it being digested as well? Yes. Yes, it is. Let's try it again. After we save everything. Which, does that mean that this also already has a ping timer in it? I think so. Yeah, it does. So we can actually scrap now our timer here. Our is ping running. Our service ping. Our service ping client application. Like that. Service ping event args, which is a base polling event args, like that. get rid of all of this stuff that we added. Up here we can have a private service instance called service instance, and that's a DTO. We no longer have this because the ping is already being absorbed. So we can get rid of this service ping. Rebuild it. Okay, if I look at my data access layer, I only have these ones, which is right. So now when I run this, this is our ping timer. I'm going to get my OAuth token and connect. There it is. We're going to look at my connections to remove. Now it is going to be pinged. Then we've received it. And we update the connection. So it is working. Okay, we have one more to do. And it's another SignalR ping. And in this last one, we want to have one more of these under my business logic layer. And this is going to be a service ping web app clients. So we'll call it a service ping web app client. Service ping service We're going to call it a web app client event args. In this one, we need to have one more called up here, read application user connections to ping, and update pinged application user connections. And this is a user connection DTO, which is a application user connections. And this is a update application user connection pinged. So now this one is a read pinged applications to ping, which is going to be my application user connections. And then for each one of them, if it has been pinged, then you're going to say your service instance, which is a client application. Sorry, it's a application user connection. And this is an application user connection DTO. So if it has been pinged, then here it is. When I look at this DTO, I'm going to say this is a has been pinged and a bool here for active. We also want to have on here a date time for my timestamp. So on my entity, I can put it like this, and then I can get rid of this timestamp created is a date time UTC now. We can get rid of the is online. Okay, if I look at my library, Let's first go to the code first migration and change my application connections. We don't need this ID is online anymore. This is called has been pinged. Then you have a timestamp created. So now when I go and I look at my data access layer, here, where we create our connection, we don't have is online anymore. It's now called has been pinged. And we also want to include my timestamp created. Like that. And then our update, we have a has been pinged and a active and a date time for my timestamp. So it has been pinged. Your timestamp here is your at timestamp, and your active is at active. And then here, underneath my polling event args, this is going to be service ping web app client event args. And this is going to be a application user connection DTO. Like that. This is going to be connections pinged. This one is going to be a web app client. And then this one goes there. Easy enough. So now we need to implement that up here on startup, and it's going to be another one of these singletons, except it's a service ping web app client. And this is service ping web app client. Like that. And very similar to what we've done on the Alert Hub, I'm going to do this on the Web Hub. And what I want to have here is the injected iHub context called my Web Hub. Call this my Web Hub. And then I also want to have my IServicePing of my service ping web app client event args called service ping. Okay, and then we also want to have the Web Hub. And just like before, we're going to say that this one is a static. This is a private static read-only. Okay. Private static service ping. And so now if my service ping is equal to null, then we can assign it. And then we also want to have the event. Which is service ping dot polling event plus equals to on service ping polling event. On service ping event. We'll make this a protected, virtual, asynchronous. Okay, and so when this happens, what I want to do is I want to get all of my connections. So we're going to say var connections equals await data access layer dot read application user connections. Like that. And now what you want to do is for each var connection in connections, you want to say if my connection dot has been pinged, then you want to remove this connection. Else you want to connection dot has been pinged equals true. And we want it to have a var DTO. We're going to say connections pinged equals a new list of application user connection DTO. Connections ping dot add this connection here. And when you want to remove this connection, over here, can we do this a little bit different and do this as a await alerts hub dot clients of my args dot service instances pinged dot select the connection ID dot send asynchronous ping request and a ping. So here, when we ping our message here, we're doing this in the business logic layer, I believe, underneath polling, underneath ping, underneath the service instances. Here it is. So I'm going to move this to be in the service ping here. Just like that. Which means that over here, we're going to send this out across my web hub. To all my clients in my connections pinged this ping request. You have an alerts hub and a data access layer. So like that. Which means that this one doesn't have any implementations yet, so we have to go fix that, and then I think we're done. When does this get updated? Here. So you're adding it to services at some point. Right here. So it should be working. Let's go fix our data access layer. So we need to implement read application user connections to ping. So we'll grab these ones. And bring them right here. Online time is frozen? Oh, thank you for that. How goes it today, Sigmofo? It's great to have you back with us. And this one is going to be from service instance to be a application user connection. So here, we're going to read all of my application users connections. Where the connection ID does not equal to null, it won't ever, where it is active. And then this one, this is called your connections. So update your has ping been sent, active and timestamp where ID is and it's active. And this last one here is this. Like that. And now we can go ahead and rebuild all this. Too bad. Not too bad, boss. And yourself? I am doing great today. Getting a lot done, which is nice. Good. I don't need a log on this, do I? Okay. This has been pinged. And this is in my check connection. Active here is true. So on this update request, we always want this to default to be true. So it's no longer this is online or this has been pinged. We also want to have the timestamp created. Okay. So here you can just do this as a await clients of your connections dot select connection ID to list, like that. If I look back at my hub for WebHub, and I get my response, right here, Then this one is a read application user connection by connection ID asynchronous. Update pinged user connections. Just a second here. Right. Right here, read service instance by connection ID async. You need to have a read application user connection by connection ID. And then finally, your update application pinged. Okay, we only have one final thing to do, which is on our front end. We need to go into our web hub. And I need to make a new function in here called this underscore what is happening with my app. Let me close this and reopen this. This underscore hub connection dot on, and it's a ping request, and it passes in the ping, which is a string. And all you want to do in this case is you want to say if your ping dot equals, or you want to say is equal to ping, then you want to do a this dot hub connection dot invoke called ping response, and we just pass along ping or pong. And we'll do a console.log here to say that we got a ping received. And now we can test it. So now when we log into the web app, and we can see that this is working over here at our connections. Only one of them is bitmarked, not online. Oh, we have a problem. Over here, we need to run our migrations, Fluent migrations. And then we're going to run our unit tests. We can copy this one and bring this over to my connections. So you get your, we'll use this one here. And we want to iterate over this a few times. And this is going to be called application user connection. Okay. And then you need to have your DTOs here. And then this goes in your try catch. And this is going to be read user connections to ping. Application user connection DTO. Update pinged application users. And then read application user connections to ping. And then what you want to do is for each one of your DTOs, you want to remove this. And then you want to remove your connection and your app. And then you want to do this assert. And that should do it. Now, one thing I wanted to change in all of this was this data access layer. I should be able to get rid of that. And then this one, we can do a quick refactor on it. Like that. Which means that in here, my data access layer equals a using. We'll just change it to be data access layer. And then we want to say if your data access layer is equal to this, then it's using. Data access layer equals that. which means that anywhere in here where you have data access layer dot dispose, you can get rid of that. Okay, we're going to need to do the same thing here. We want to first say that my data access layer equals data access layer. And then my data access layer equals needs to be using var data access layer equals. And then my data access layer dot dispose goes to nothing. Okay, same thing here. Data access layer goes to be data access layer. Data access layer equals goes to be using data access layer equals. And then your data access layer dot dispose equals nothing. Almost done. Same thing here. Okay, just a few more. Oh, can't I just do this? Second. We'll just finish this up. Okay, so that one. This one. And then that one. Almost done here. Two more, and then we're all finished. And this is the last one here. And we can rebuild it. Just forgot these ones here. Perfect. Let's run our tests. Everything works. We can test our final pings, and we should be good to go. Sorry, I meant to run this project. And now we can run my tests. That's interesting that this didn't take. So in this one, it's got to be in my add service instance that I'm not adding some value. So this one we want to make sure we're adding in the has been pinged and the timestamp created. And on this create, it's probably the same issue. As if I look at this, I have timestamp created. Application user ID, connection ID. There is no more is online. Has been pinged. Timestamp created and timestamp. And we'll try that one again. Okay, everything's good. We're going to run it and check our pings now. Projects component. So here we are in my auth server. Here we are getting my response. This one's in my web hub. If I look at console, well, let's look at this real quick. If I look at my application user connections, now I only have one, which is active, because it got rid of all of them. So that one was deleted because it never got the ping request. So over in the front end, in your projects, so over in the projects, we want to still have the ng on init, and we're going to put the list.loading equals true. There is no loading anymore, right? So we need to create a project as a test one. Okay, all of these client applications, we can get rid of this. Okay, and back over here on the Web Hub, it's called ping request. Like that. Ping received. Unable to invoke ping response. That's fine. And then this one failed on projects component. So does that mean that over here on my So it never sent ping response back. It would help if you spelled it correctly. There it is. We're going to read that. Has been pinged. And if I look now at my connections, active is true. But where is my has been pinged? There, active and there. So it's working now. Okay. So it said that in projects, so we want to say this, and I want to do after view init and then this. Create project. It says this is at this router link. Okay, so to fix this, we'll do this. We'll do ng on init, where we'll assign these projects. And then after init, we'll assign the data sources. Log back in. Hi, did I move? Yeah, we're in a new place. Do you like it? Projects, now it's working right. Let me go back to this again. So that seems to be working. So what that means is it's like that. And so now I need to rinse and repeat this on the other one. So we'll just duplicate this. ng on init. And then after init, we'll just grab the data source, the sort, and the paginator. Okay. And then the last one is under alerts. Looks like a nice office. Yeah, I see the quadcopters in the center, the guitar. Have you done any custom built-in soldering on your drums? Yeah, the one that you see over there, it's a Y6, so it's got 3 motors on top and 3 on the bottom. And that one I made completely by myself. I wanted to do orthographic 3D renderings for a little bit when I was still doing environmental work, before I went back full-time into programming. Okay, so that looks good, and that looks good. And so now when I check this again, and we look at the projects, looks fine. We look at these, we can create the client applications, and go back and forth, and everything is good. And we'll do one final check here. This is in my client applications. Oh, what? Looks like I never did this one. So this is a ng on init. like that. Nice. I got a friend who built a hex frame with 6 motors, had to find a good weight ratio so he could transmit video goggles at the ground so he could fly around in FPV. Yep, that's the same thing that I got on this one. And then I made it with rails on the front so you can put an X5 camera on it and it can shoot straight down for orthographic images. It has another camera which points straight forward for FPV. And then I have a 3-axis gimbal that I can hang off the front, but it's either the next camera or the 3-axis gimbal. And that uses a GoPro. And I have a second controller so that if I'm flying on the ground with goggles, then there's a screen and somebody I'm with just has their own controller and they can move the camera around like they're in a helicopter. And now when I go and I look at this again, now it looks right. We're just going to check one last thing here. Yeah, I was having fun with it at the time. So let's go ahead now and run this client. And we can watch over here, and we should do a test alert. And here's our new alert. Here it is here. And my number of alerts here does not update. So I'm almost tempted to make this calculated. And the same thing with projects. But for me, I'm out of time for this morning. I'll be back maybe this afternoon. Let me see what time it is now. It's currently almost 1 o'clock. Let's say that we'll be back by about 4:30 or 5 p.m. Thanks so much for staying with me today, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you pop them in the chat. Also, that's at our Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Also, I put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. I appreciate all the support again today, guys. And thank you very much, and have a great rest of your morning. Alrighty, see you guys later. Bye.